Hey guys, well, welcome to another live Tuesday training here at One Source Personal Development. I'm really happy you could join us here today, and today we have an interesting one. Hopefully, you're going to get a bit of value out of it. So, what are we going to talk about today? Well, today we're going to talk about Mel Robbins' new book, The High Five Habit. Now, I know we've kind of covered a little bit of it previously. What we did is we did a little bit of a sneak peek on another video there a while ago, but it was very limited, and truthfully, now I can talk about it obviously a lot more with a lot more insight because I've listened to the audiobook at this stage. Just finish it up there. So I wanted to go ahead and I wanted to get into it a little bit deeper. And I have to say, even though I'm a huge Mel Robbins fan, as you guys all know, big believer in the 5 second rule, I was a little bit, well, hesitant. And I want to pick my words carefully because I am such a big fan, but I was a little bit hesitant because I wasn't sure if it was just going to be basically the exact same thing almost as the 5 second rule. But I was very pleasantly surprised. I was also a little bit concerned that Mel Robbins, even though as much of a fan as I am, well, was she going to be a bit of a one hit wonder? Meaning that, yes, she did the 5 second rule, but I've mentioned before, truth be told, she didn't really create all of that. That rule, similar rules, I should say, were in place long before Mel Robbins came around in neuroscience. But again, I'm not taking anything away from her. I love Mel Robbins. I think she's an amazing presenter, and she's got some really, really powerful tools. A great motivator, great coach. Really, really nothing but time for her. But again, I was concerned that was it going to be a one-hit wonder type of thing, or was this just going to be a continuation of the 5 second rule? But I was really pleasantly surprised to the point that I'm really going to encourage you to actually get a copy of this book. It's something you can definitely use in your own life, but just as importantly, you can use it while you're working with others, when you're consulting or coaching others. Definitely a great technique, definitely a great tool that you can have one of your resources in your little personal development toolbox. So let's go ahead and let's get stuck in. And what I want to do is, rather than me explaining it all to you, I'm going to play a quick video by Mel Robbins. It's only less than a minute and a half long. It's one of her adverts, but she's going to kind of explain, well, not kind of, she's going to explain the basis, or the basics, I should say, better yet, the basics of the high five habit. So let's listen to this together, and then what we'll do is we'll get stuck in a few minutes and delve a little bit deeper. Okay?
Hey, it's Mel Robbins, and if you are struggling with energy and focus and discipline right now, I've got a simple science-backed thing for you to try that will immediately boost your mood, it will immediately build your confidence, and it will give you the burst of inspiration and support that you need. I call it the high five habit. It's going to sound weird. Here's how you do it. Right after you brush your teeth in the morning, I want you to look at yourself. I want you to set an intention for today. Think about how you're going to show up, who you're going to be, and what matters to you to make progress on today. And then I want you to raise your hand and high five your reflection. And something crazy is going to happen. As you raise your hand, you silence the critic in your mind. Shh. And you seal that intention with your own reflection. And there's even more. All of the messaging associated with a high five. I believe in you. We got this. Let's go. Come on now. Pick yourself up. Keep going. It's already in your brain. So when you high five your own reflection, all that positive programming marries with your own reflection when you need it most. I know, it sounds silly, it sounds weird, but please try it for 5 days and you'll be shocked at what happens. And when you do, I'm going to tell you something. Your whole life will change. Because what's actually changing is you. And that's worth a high five.
Okay, so there you have it, the basics of the High Five Habit by Mel Robbins. Again, really good. And again, we're going to get into it a little bit deeper, and you'll get a better understanding as we progress here of why I'm such a big fan of this. But it's another simple, effective, useful tool that you can go ahead and incorporate into your own life and when working with clients, which is really what it's all about. But I tell you what I love about Mel Robbins. I love one simple thing that she does. She is so effective of a communicator, but she's so effective of incorporating her
Hey,
own
it's Mel.
story into everything she does. Like if you go back to uh, the 5 second rule, if you remember it back from her original TED talk, How to Stop Screwing Yourself Over, and when she explains the 5 second rules, she uses her story to go ahead and to connect with the individuals, to connect with the people she's trying to communicate with. If you remember, she'll talk about how at the time her and her husband they were facing some really major financial problems. The marriage was a little bit shaky because of some bad investments that the husband had made into a restaurant. She had lost her job. She basically was drinking probably a little bit more than she should, and there was just a lot of negativity in her life. That's when she actually discovered the 5 second rule. But she communicates it in such a way by telling her story. And that's what I want to go ahead and I want to make that point to you. A very effective technique that she uses when coaching, when consulting, when talking to groups is telling her story. And you can too. We all have a story to tell. You always have to remember that. Um, It's not going to be Mel's story, obviously. It's going to be your story. I'm going to tell my story. But we all have a story to tell. If you remember, when when you first got involved with OneSource, lesson number one, what do? I tell you my story. I tell you about how I was working an insane work schedule at the time as a consultant. That I had picked up a lot of negative, bad habits. My health was terrible. My relationships were not where they needed to be. I was just basically very unbalanced. Then I had my health challenges. I had the heart attack, which led me to discover and create the One Source Personal Development System. All of it is true. I have no doubt everything she says is true. But by telling your story, it's a very effective tool of communication when working with groups, when working on one to one, when trying to connect with people. Now, you have a story, and it might not be a negative story, it might be a very positive story, but you can structure it in such a way, as long as it's the truth, you never ever manipulate the truth. You never ever embellish the truth, because if you do, I'll tell you what's going to happen. You might not get caught. People might never find out, but you'll know. And every time you're telling that, you're programming your subconscious mind to believe that you're a fraud, you're a fake, and it's not going to be effective long term. It's going to affect you, and ultimately, you're not going to be a well. Most people couldn't do it and be an effective coach or consultant. I don't believe so. So don't ever embellish the truth. But you can go ahead and structure your story so it has a very strong impact on the people you're trying to communicate with. And she's an expert at doing that. So I want to show you an example. I want to show you another video that Mel does where she tells her story, again, getting back into the high five habit. She's doing an interview and she's going to go ahead and she's going to talk about the high five habit in this interview. But listen to the way she tells her story. See how she uses it to go ahead and create interest and connect with her audience. So we'll go ahead and we'll play this, and then we're gonna get a little bit deeper into the high five habit. But I just want to point that out. So again, because again, all tools, all tips, all strategies, techniques that you can use in your own business as a personal development consultant. So let's see what Mel has to say here.
I walked into the bathroom and I was standing in my underwear brushing my teeth in front of the mirror. And I looked up at the mirror and my first thought was, ugh. I noticed that my jowls were starting to look like saddlebags on a pack horse at the Grand Canyon. And I had like these crazy lines by my eyes, and my neck was really like kind of saggy, and one boob was hanging lower than the other, and my gray hair was coming in. And as soon as I started kind of critiquing my thoughts or my looks and appearance, then my mind, Rich, started going, fuck, I didn't get that email back to that person, and I got that presentation I need to do, and my God, did that speech just cancel again? What the f am I going to do? And I look down, and the dog needs to be walked, and then I think, I got a Zoom call in 9 minutes. Like, I got to get my shit together. And before I knew it, my whole mood was low. I felt overwhelmed. I had taken myself down mentally. I just wanted somebody to walk in and be like, Mel, it's going to be okay. Like, you got this, girl. Like, it's lift your head up. You can handle this. I don't know what came over me, Rich. This is pathetic. But standing there in my underwear in front of my bathroom sink, I raised my hand and high-fived my reflection. And I cracked a smile because it's so fucking corny. I even thought of that guy, Stuart Smiley, from the SNL skits. Remember that? I'm nice, I'm kind, people like me. Went on with my day. That was it.
Snapped a photo, though.
No, not that one.
Oh, not that one. Not the first time.
And then I kept doing it. I did it probably for a week or two. And here's the weird thing about it. I started when I woke up after doing this high five your own reflection in the mirror thing. I actually started to feel like I was looking forward to it. And here's why. I've spent a lifetime, just like you, standing in front of the mirror. And what I realize now is that when I'm standing in front of a mirror, I'm either critiquing or picking myself apart, or I'm ignoring myself. And when you start to high five your own reflection, it starts to build a partnership within you, with yourself. When you walk into the bathroom and you see your reflection and you've been greeting it, it's like seeing another person. It's the strangest thing. You start to realize how often you fucking ignore or destroy yourself when you see yourself or beat yourself up. And here's what's also crazy. You have a lifetime positive association with high-fiving other people.
Sure.
As a runner, as a racer, you have gotten so many high fives, Rich. What does a high five say to you when somebody gives you one?
You feel seen, you feel appreciated, you feel energized by it, and it's an exchange of energy. It's not the same, and you talk about this in the book, it's not the same as like self-talk because there's a participation involved in it. There's like a communion aspect to it.
Yeah. And, if you think about it, you're so good at celebrating, seeing, and cheering for other people in your life. You plan birthday parties, you reach out to people when you're worried about them, you help out colleagues, you cheer for your favorite sports teams, you high-five people like Rich as they're running races past you, you buy people's merchandise, you do all kinds of stuff for other people, but nobody's taught you how to do it for yourself. In fact, the reason why it feels fucking weird to high-five your own reflection is because you've been taught to do the opposite.
Why is the default to just beat ourselves down like that? I mean, it is crazy. We would never treat anyone else in our lives, especially the people we care about, the way that we treat ourselves in terms of the self-talk or the narrative or the critique or the kind of harshness with which we, judge our appearances, our behavior, the way we, think back on things that we said the other day and just are horrified by our own selves. And it's I don't know if it's everybody.
Everybody.
Most people.
Except for Buddhists. I mean, I think that they're like if you're a big practicing Buddhist, that's a monk.
Right.
That's like just
why can't the default be the good things though?
Well,
why is it wired that way?
There's cognitive bias. There's a bias towards negativity. And it's a protection mechanism that's a default from evolution, that if you remember the bad shit, you're more likely to spot it when it happens in the future.
So you can avoid it.
And here's where I think it begins. I believe my theory is that it begins two places. Either you, or that could be both actually, you either learned the pattern of beating yourself up because you had parents or caregivers that were hard on themselves or hard on you. And so as a child, you absorbed that pattern and you now repeat it and you don't even realize it. So those moments you're like, oh my God, I sound just like my dad or my mom. That is an example of a pattern that you've absorbed. Mm-hmm. So particularly for women, we've watched our mothers be critical about their appearance. We've watched our mothers ignore and criticize themselves in the mirror. And so we learn that from our caregivers. So that's one place. The second place that we learn it is when the drive in your life becomes fitting in. Fitting into groups in elementary, middle, high school, college, your neighborhood. That feels safe when you fit in. When you feel like you don't belong, you immediately go into a protection mechanism. And I believe a lot of the negative self-talk is a sorting hat type of mentality that we do to ourselves going, I can't be with those people. I can't be with those people. It's safe to be with those people. And you start to see yourself and the world around you as places where you belong and places where you don't. And part of the criticism, as fucked up as it sounds, that we engage in all the time is don't be too big, don't be too loud, don't show yourself too much, don't have blue hair, don't do this, other people won't like you. It starts as a way to protect yourself from being rejected, but the truth is you develop a habit of rejecting yourself.
Right. Meanwhile, you're further divorcing yourself from who you truly are because you're not giving yourself permission to be yourself. That gets sublimated in favor of fitting in and, accommodating other people and acclimating your behavior around what will be approved of.
Yes. So for me, I have clearly a lifetime of beating myself up and tearing myself down and regretting decisions that I made. And in the middle of stumbling through life, instead of being like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay, being like, you're really fucked up now, Mel. How does that help?
Right.
How does criticizing and being hard on yourself help?
Okay, so what did we learn from that? Other than the obvious fact, Mel Robbins has got a filthy mouth. I always get a kick out of that. Yeah, I was a little bit surprised, I have to say. I mean, look, I know that she curses. That's no big deal. But she has a really filthy mouth. I think that's kind of starting to see that as a common trend. Like for an example, I know Tony Robbins is these days he throws the F bomb around all the time, and I think it's to get more of an impact. I don't know. It's a trend that's going on. It doesn't bother me, but I always find it kind of funny, kind of interesting. So hopefully you're not easily offended, though. But look, she's using her story. She's connecting with people through her own personal experience, and that's the point I really wanted to make with you. I want to talk about the high five habit because she's explaining it there, but she uses her own personal experience. And that's the point that I'm really trying to get you to make, is really trying to make with you, that you do the same thing. Because we all have a story to tell. Just structure in such a way that you can make sure that you can get the most impact, providing, providing that you don't embellish it. Always be truthful. But you can go ahead and you can structure it in such a way that you don't try to touch on high impact points to try to make that connection with people. So what else did I learn? What did I learn from the audiobook, The High Five Habit? Well, there's a lot to it when you break it down, and I'm going to give you I suppose, a snapshot of what I got out of it. Some of the things, anyway, that I got out of it. So you can go ahead and, well, hopefully it'll give you the motivation to go out there and get your hands on a copy of the book, get the audio book, but more importantly, to use it, to try it, to implement it into your life and to your sessions. So, what are some of the things that I learned here? So, well, the first thing that I want to point out, you heard her, she says that um, you can use it to silence the critics inside. What is she talking about? She's talking about interrupting your pattern. You know, we all have those critics inside us that start the negative self-talk, which can be extremely harmful. We've done a lot of research into this. We've talked about this. We've had sessions on this negative self-talk. But one of the things that's a trigger for many people to really set off that negative self-talk is the mirror. When you look into a mirror, generally, and I know I'm very guilty of this, especially the older I get, uh, you're starting to look for your imperfections. You're starting to look for the negatives. You're starting to look for, me, I can look in a mirror and point out a million things, but you tend to notice, the negatives, and that starts a trend. So you're starting now to create an association that when you go up to that mirror right away, you're looking for the imperfections, you're looking for the negative. That sets off a negative train of thoughts running through your mind, and it just has a chain reaction. But she's trying to go ahead and use the high five habit when looking into the mirror. Well, first off, one of the things again to silence the critics within. But what is she really doing? She's trying to get you to primarily to interrupt your pattern. And when you look in that mirror, instead of focusing on what you've been conditioned, what you conditioned to believe is your reflection or yourself, your inner self. Well, see yourself for your true self. But the whole thing is, and you guys will know this from the earlier days when we were talking about neuroassociative conditioning, and from the session that we've had with Steve, by the way, thanks Steve, on NLP, and some of the other research you would have done. The primary importance of interrupting that pattern. If you recall, we talked about it in session number 4, the science behind our system. But interrupting the pattern is critical. If you go back to NAC, when we are studying neuroassociative conditioning and the role that it plays within our system, you'll remember when we were talking about it that we initially, I said a great tool was to go ahead and interrupt the pattern with the 5-second rule. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What does that do? Well, it interrupts the pattern, and that can create a new reaction where you can go ahead and focus on something else and create a different outcome. But we won't get into that again, but this is a form of that, but in a very positive way, because you're trying to do it in advance or advance of the trigger, because the trigger in this particular case would be the mirror. So I suppose our self-talk it can be positive and it can be negative. Positive self-talk is fantastic, but this is above positive self-talk. This is being proactive to avoid the negative self-talk. It's more powerful than words alone, though, because you're mixing in emotion. You're mixing in a very positive emotion. And how are you doing that? Well, you're setting a positive anchor. So what do I mean by that? We would have learned this in, just some of the basics of NLP and NAC, neuroassociative conditioning. But what is a positive anchor? Well, a positive anchor is primarily when you're in a very intense emotional state, and through the power of repetition, you can create an anchor within your central nervous system, whether it be positive or negative, that through repetition, whenever you take that action again, you're going to feel that same emotion. In this case, it's a positive. Why is it a positive? Well, what is a high five? When somebody gives you a high five, what do you feel? What do you experience? What are your thoughts that go through your head when somebody gives you a high five? Well, I got to imagine they're positive. We've been conditioned since we're very young that, high five is a very positive thing. It means you're connecting with somebody, that somebody's approving of you, that they like what you did. You did something worth noting, something worthwhile. It's an achievement to a degree. So it's a very positive emotion. And that positivity, that emotion has been anchored into you. So when somebody gives you a high five, or when you give somebody a high five, you automatically feel that again through the power, because you've done it over and over and over again. And every time you've done it, you've been in a peak emotional state. So, and now it's just like all you have to do is do the action and you feel those emotions. It's already been anchored into you. So, when you look in that mirror and you look in a positive state and you give that high five, you're going to experience that emotion. But you're also, too, she talks about, you'll listen when she was giving the interview there, by looking at it's only your own reflection, we know that. But now you're in a different mindset where it's almost as if it's another individual. So you're giving yourself or that other individual a high five. You're basically, again, creating that positive anchor around the action, around the mirror, and mostly important, around yourself. So that's a part, and again, this is very much of a snapshot version of the power of the high five habit. But again, I got to give it to Mel Robbins. In fairness to her, as simplistic as it is, as easy it is, just like the 5-second rule, very powerful. Extremely powerful, actually. So, and I tell you what else I learned from the book as well. I didn't learn it, but it just reinforces what we've talked about many, many times. When we focus on the subject of relationships, your number one most important relationship is always your relationship with yourself. She talks about that a lot throughout the book. So again, reinforcing the fact when we use our system of personal development, the very first subcategory that I always say that everybody should have is your relationship with yourself. You need to control and direct your focus on a daily, consistent basis to your relationship with yourself. And this is a very strong tool that you can utilize to go ahead and do that. So, what makes the high five habit so effective that we've already talked about? But where's the science? What's the proof? Well, Frontier in Psychology magazine, or I believe it's some publication. I personally, I don't know it. This is just something that I just pulled up online, but I believe it. Researchers, they put it to the test. So what did they do? They got a group of students and they split them up into three different groups. And basically, what they did was uh, they looked for the best way to motivate the students during the challenging situation. And the challenging situation in this case was taking an exam. So they divide them up into the three groups, and the first group was given verbal praise. A verbal praise such as you did well because you're smart, you're intelligent, you're quick, whatever the case was, but they gave them some form of a verbal phrase. The next group of individuals, they told them uh, the the praise was for their efforts. Sorry, they were praised not verbally but based on their effort, such as you did well because you worked hard. Their effort was the primary focus. But the third group, they didn't get any verbal praise whatsoever. Not about their traits or not about their efforts. It was just a simple high five. So, what do you think happened? Well, primarily, the students were asked to evaluate their performance. Both groups that had the verbal feedback ranked themselves significantly lower than the group that received the high five. In their own opinion, they ranked themselves lower. So, why were the high five group ranked themselves so much higher? Because the high five gesture, this is the outcome, that the high five gesture had a lifetime of programming into the brain as being positive. Without saying anything, a high five sends a message. I believe in you. I see you. You got this. That's it. It's an anchor. It's been anchored in you probably as long as you can remember. Through the power of repetition, that those high intense emotions that you were experiencing at the time. So similar in today's generation, high five's still a big thing, but I tell you what's very popular: social media and likes. I mean, think about it. You post up a picture on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I'm not big on social media myself, but when somebody likes it, that simple little like, that notification, that ding, you look at how many likes you got. That releases endorphins. Okay, that's an anchor. That's an anchor that primarily produces a response, a positive response. I don't believe that the long term with the positive response based on the damage that social media does is worthwhile, but that's a different story. Um, but myself, I have to admit I'm guilty of it myself. I don't do much on social media these days, but the few times that I have in the past, I have to admit, if I took a picture of something, if me and my wife were out doing something, we were traveling, whatever the case may be, when I would go back and check later on, if I had a bunch of likes, and for me, a bunch of likes wouldn't be that many because I'm not active on social media. I wouldn't be connected with that many people. Um, but again, I would always, you, you can't help it. It's a natural thing, I think, at this stage. You feel good, those endorphins. Again, it's a bit of a rush. It's an anchor. It's been conditioned through the power of repetition. So, what I want to do now is I want to share another video, but this is somebody you might not be as familiar with. Okay, it's I haven't come across her before. She's a very bright, intelligent young lady. She gives her take on the high five habit. She did it for 5 days. She did a test on herself. She hadn't read the book, as you're going to hear. She basically just listened to Mel Robbins talking about it on YouTube. Thought she would put it to the test, so she documented it. So let's take a look and or listen and see how she believed it impacted her life and what type of results that it produced for this person. Okay?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the 5-second rule by Mel Robbins was a concept that really, really helped me. I listened to a lot of podcasts with Mel Robbins, and I listened to the audiobook of the 5-second rule. So I've been a fan of Mel Robbins for quite a few years now. Mel Robbins actually really helped me with the importance of writing down your goals and rewriting them each day. So at the beginning of 2020, before this whole catastrophic thing happened in the world, Mel Robbins released a free course called The Best Decade Ever. And I subscribed to that course, and I did that course. And one of the things in there that really, really helped me, that really changed my life in the way that I kind of think about goals now, was to rewrite basically your goals every single day. And that was something that I first discovered in that course. So I wrote down my goals every single day. And it's something that has really, really helped me. So when I heard that Mel Robbins was actually releasing a new book, and this new high five habit thing that she'd come up with, I wanted to test it, and I wanted to test it on myself. I wanted to see what would happen if I gave myself a high five in the mirror every day, because apparently, according to Mel Robbins, this has really helped her, and it helped her through this whole time that the world has gone through recently. So I was really interested, and I like to use myself as a bit of a guinea pig for like ideas like this, ways to empower you, self-improvement ideas. So this whole channel is about personal development, ideas and tips and things like that. So I wanted to test this out and see what happened. So I did it for 5 days. And basically I'm going to talk to you about the results that I got each day from doing this high-fiving myself in the mirror. Now, I believe the book isn't out yet until the end of the month, and this is coming out before the book has been released, so I haven't actually read the book yet, but Mel Robbins has described what the high-five habit is in some of her videos on YouTube. So basically, I was watching some of those and thought, oh, I'll give it a shot. I'll give myself a high five in the mirror every day and see what happens. So these are the results of my guinea pig experiment on myself of giving myself a high five in the morning every day. So firstly, I came up with a good time to do this. So usually in the mornings, I have an hour where I read, and then I get ready for the day, have breakfast with my wife before she goes off to work, and then I get ready for my day. So I feel the optimal time for me to actually give myself a high five was before I got on with my work day rather than my morning routine. Because, that's when I probably need the most encouragement, before I start my work for the day. That's what I kind of thought anyway. So I started, and I usually start my day roughly around like 8:30. So I would give myself a high five roughly around between 8 and 8:30. So I started on Monday, and I went all the way through till today, which is Friday, and I gave myself a high five every day. So what I noticed on the first day was actually how good it felt to actually do that. I was really surprised at what a positive thing it would be. So when I gave myself that high five, the first high five, I was shocked actually at how good I felt doing it. Like, it felt really fun to do. It felt enjoyable, and I really enjoyed doing it. Like, it felt really good. It felt really nice. So that was a strange experience because I wasn't expecting to actually feel anything when I did it, but I actually felt a really positive emotion while doing it. So that was kind of like the first thing that I sort of noticed. That's kind of what I jotted down here about how I felt after that first high five. On day 2, it was kind of like a repeat feeling of how I felt the day before. So it wasn't like a massive change on the second day. It just felt really good. Like, again, I just really enjoyed doing it. Like, it felt fun. It felt enjoyable. So I didn't really notice like anything big on day 2. If you're enjoying the video so far, please leave a like on it, and please do subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much. So day 3 was a little bit different. Obviously, it still felt really good to do it. I still really enjoyed doing it. But something else I noticed was I had the desire to do it more. Like, I wanted to do it more than once. Like, I wanted to do it each time I went to the mirror. That's kind of like the experience I felt. Like, that's such a good, fun emotion that I kind of want to keep on doing it. That's like what I noticed on the 3rd day. So whenever I was near a mirror, like, I wanted to do the high five. I wanted to do it. So that was like the next kind of like step, the kind of like the next experience. So on day 4, this was the one that kind of shocked me a bit. This was the one that where I noticed a difference, and I'm not sure if it was because of the high five that I gave myself that day, or if it was just I was just really on point that day. But what I noticed was I was really, really super productive, like amazingly productive. I don't know how I managed to do all that I did in that day. And was it like, I'm not sure if it was a result of doing the high five, but what I do know is that I was super productive that day. And maybe it was a build-up of all the high fives that I'd done to myself during the week, or maybe it was just, like I said, because I was just super on point that day. But I think it's really important that I tell you that I was really, really productive on that day. And I also noticed, because I do daily videos for YouTube, not on this channel, but on my main channel, which is a dating and relationship channel, I noticed that I was really good at making videos that day. Like, my performance was really, really good. Like, I felt strong in those when I was talking to the camera and things like that. Like, I felt like I had a lot of clarity. I felt like I had a lot of gusto. I felt like I was giving like really good information as well. Like, I thought my advice was really on point and things like that. So I had a really, really super productive day. It was super busy, and I was doing so much of, productive things. And also I was performing really, really well. Again, was it a result of the high five habit? I don't know, but I'm just telling you what I've experienced over these 5 days. So today, this is day 5. This is the last day of me doing it. And I've discovered that I don't want it to be the last day of me doing it. I want to do this every morning. I want to give myself a high five every morning. Mostly just because it just feels nice. Like, it feels good to do it. Like, it feels really nice. Like, it feels like an enjoyable thing to do. It feels fun. It feels like I'm kind of having fun with myself. Like, I feel like I'm playing. It's kind of got that kind of emotion in it. Like, it just feels really, really fun. It feels really good. So I highly recommend that you try it for yourself. Like, I highly recommend that you do it for 5 days. Do what Mel Robbins says. And give yourself a high five every day. I don't know if there's like a specific way that she does it. I don't know if like she has like kind of like a routine to do before the high five, or affirmations or anything like that. I literally just watched one of her videos that said about giving yourself a high five every single day in the mirror, and that's what I did. There might be more specifics to it, and obviously Mel Robbins has written a whole book about this that's coming out soon. So there could be a lot more to it than what I've done. So I'm really looking forward to actually reading it, or I might be getting the audiobook. I'm not sure which one I'm going to get. But it's really cool. And there might be some things in there that are a little bit more, that can make it a bit more effective. I don't know. But anyway, all I know is that it's a fun thing to do. After doing it once, after doing it a couple of times, I felt like I wanted to do it again. I wanted to do it more throughout the day, not just in the morning. And I noticed by the end of the week, I was much more productive than what I usually am. And again, I'm not sure if it's the result of the habit, but it was a good experience. And it felt good. Sorry for repeating myself a bit, but I feel like those points are really, really important to make. And I really want to drum it into you that this could be something that is transformative, that at least gives you a little bit of pleasure throughout the day if you are feeling not that great about yourself. Like, if you're feeling bad about yourself in some way, if you're feeling down, like, to give yourself a boost, give it a go, like, try it out. Because on some of these days, like, I wasn't feeling good, right? I wasn't feeling myself. Like, one day I had a really bad night's sleep, and the next day I felt really groggy, like I felt really run down. But giving myself a high five actually gave me a boost and stuff like that. So if you are feeling down, if you are feeling sad, give it a go. It might feel weird to begin with, but I recommend that you do it.
Okay, guys, so there you have it. It seems like it did some positive results for this young lady here. Again, I haven't done it yet. I have listened to the book. I like the book a lot, but I haven't done the high five habit yet. You'll notice I say yet. But this individual, this young lady, she seems very impressed with it. Seems like she has got some really positive results. So I would also encourage you to go check out her YouTube channel. She's got a few interesting videos on there. Um, I see if I can link it up on my channel. Uh, Not that we use our channel that much. Mostly everything's up on the membership site. But go to YouTube. I'll have a link in the description, or just do a search for it. It says there what I did the high five habit every day for 5 days. Here's what happened. A new habit from Mel Robbins. I'm sure you'll find her anyway. But yeah, give her a go. She's helping people. That's a good thing. So what else? What else do we want to do? You'll notice I said I haven't done it yet. You know, I'm a big believer in you learn by doing. The whole reason that you have to, for an example, use our system of personal development here in OneSource for a minimum of 90 days before you're allowed to even present it or to start working with a client or a prospect is because I believe you learn by doing. I could easily, and so could you at this stage, most of you, teach our system to somebody over a course of a weekend, if not less. If they just sat down and just listened and did it in a classroom setting. But they wouldn't be in a position to really share it with others at that stage. Why? Because they haven't used it, they haven't done it, they haven't incorporated it into their life so they can go ahead and really experience the results firsthand. But if they do it for a period of time, they learn by doing. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do with the high five habit. I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and try it out. Do what this young lady had done. Try it for 5 days. See what results you get. Take the high five challenge. Try it for 5 days, and then you can make an educated decision. Do you feel any different? Did it help you? Do you think it's something worth sharing? Something you might want to share with your clients? At least that way you can make an educated decision. Remember, it's partially your responsibility as a consultant to go ahead and do research, learn new strategies that you can introduce, to your clients. So I really, really encourage you to go ahead and try it out. So you got nothing to lose. It's all based on neuroscience. Our system is based on neuroscience. So I think it's a good strategy. It's a good technique, method, whatever you want to refer to it as, tool that you can have at your disposal when working with a client. So also too, I'm going to encourage you to start working on your story. Remember Mel Robbins, how effective she was able to connect with her audience by telling her story. You have a story to tell as well. Start to craft it. Start to go ahead and work on it. So when you're doing a one-to-one, when you're talking to a group, when you're doing a workshop, when you're doing a staff training, whatever path you choose to share our system, well, you'll have a story to tell and you'll be able to connect with your audience. But always remember, don't embellish. It's going to do more harm than good, and the harm it's going to do is going to be to you. So just tell it the way it really is. You don't need to embellish. Your story is interesting enough, trust me. So, what else do we want to cover before we wrap it up? Safeguarding. Okay, this is something that I want to touch base on because I believe it's our responsibility as consultants to make sure that we're safeguarding the people that we're working with. So, What do I mean when I talk about safeguarding? In case you don't know, safeguarding is primarily just a vital process that protects children and adults. A lot of people think it's only children. Obviously, it is children, but adults, it applies to adults as well. Adults from harm, abuse, and neglect. The safety and well-being of adults and children is an important as they come into contact with services in schools and workplaces. Primarily, your business, your one source personal development business. You're self-employed, but it's a business. You're working with clients. From time to time, those clients are going to share information with you. They're going to talk about their relationships. They're going to talk about their spouse. They're going to talk about their relationship with their kids. They're going to share a lot of information. And 99.9% of the time, it's going to be just general conversation, general relationship issues, challenges, obstacles, or positive things that they're going to talk about. But sometimes, and this is where you have to safeguard, this is where you've got to keep an eye out. They might share something that, well, maybe it kind of reveals something to you that maybe that individual is in some type of danger. Maybe they're in an abusive relationship. Maybe they're having some psychological problems, and maybe they are the one that might be abusing their child. Whatever the case may be, we need to make sure that we take steps, that we have a policy in place for the group, but you need to have one for your business. You need to make sure that you know what steps to take to go ahead to make sure that that person is protected, or the people who are being harmed are protected. So, what I would like to do is get some feedback. I know some of you right here tonight that are listening to this. I know some of you that'll be listening down the road, maybe on the membership site or even on the YouTube channel might be listening to this. Let's go ahead as a group, try to come up with a policy that can be shared. It doesn't matter, like I'm in Ireland, if you're in the UK, the States, wherever you're at, it doesn't make a difference. Let's try to come up with a policy that a good practice that we can go ahead to make sure we're doing our share, that we're protecting those people that need protecting. You know, look, we're all here to do some sort of good, hopefully. Obviously, it's a career. Obviously, it's a business. But it's a business to help people. Let's make sure that, we always remember it's our responsibility to make the world a better place. So if you have any information, I know there's a lot of you out there listening that know a hell of a lot more about it than I do. So reach out. Let's go ahead and let's form a group. Let's put our heads together. Let's work together and come up with a good policy that we can implement across the board to protect the people that need protecting. Okay? Other than that, guys, we're going to wrap it up. As always, I really appreciate the time. I really appreciate you coming here tonight. I appreciate the people who are in the audience tonight. I appreciate the people who are primarily, if they're going to listen at some stage in the future, either on the membership site or on the YouTube channel. So look, until next Tuesday, thanks very much. Stay focused, stay strong. We'll see you all soon. All right? Have a great night, guys. As always, if you need anything, questions, comments, concerns, I'm around. All the best.